24 Seconds podcast. We are back. Drin, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about Nikola Jokic and how this guy, regardless of the circumstances that his team has to deal with, is putting up MVP numbers day in and day out to the extent of he hasn't even missed a single game this season and he's still putting up these games. So before I get into my argument for Jokic, why don't you get into yours, Arjun?
Yeah, Nikola Jokic. This season has been really interesting. We've seen a lot of injuries, a lot of guys have missed time, but Jokic hasn't missed any time whatsoever. Unlike his counterparts Embiid's missed 19 games. LeBron just recently came back. And so these injuries matter and they're impacting the race as we see it. I think the most impressive thing about Nikola Jokic is, the scoring obviously is up since Jamal Murray got hurt, but he's still facilitating and he's still giving other guys an opportunity to be good. Facundo Campazzo, a guard, an international guard that they signed this past year. He's been playing well in Jamal Murray's absence. Michael Porter Jr. is taking his game to a whole new level. And Jokic is helping him. Jokic is taking a lot of that pressure off of him. And so definitely the argument is there that he's making his teammates better. They're on a 4-game win streak without Jamal Murray. They've been playing well in their last 15. And so I think with all that in mind, the fact that he's been consistent, even with team injuries, he's making his team better. I think he is a lock for the MVP.
The thing is, people talk about Jamal Murray and his absence, and I completely understand that it's critical. And the fact that he's still putting up these numbers shows what a good player he is and that he is the MVP. But it's not only Jamal Murray, actually. Right now, the past game or two, the Nuggets have also been playing without Will Barton, who's a good defender, who can shoot the ball. He's versatile, and so when you lose another guy like that, Jokic has to step up even more, and he's doing all this without complaining. You don't hear him saying a word. He's putting up the numbers on a consistent basis, getting his teammates involved. And right now, if we look at the standings here, I know you guys can't see them, but Arjun and I have the standings in front of ourselves. The Nuggets are sat at the 4th seed. They have a record of 42-21. The Clippers are at the 3 seed with a record of 43-21. If the Nuggets were completely healthy this season, how many games have they missed so far without Jamal Murray? Like
Four
with,
games
without Jamal Murray.
without Jamal Murray, 4 or 5. Yeah.
I think it's a little more. It has to be more. But anyways, let's say they had a completely healthy roster the whole season, right? They could potentially be in those top 3 standings, right?
Yeah.
You could also make the argument for the Clippers. They've had Kawhi and PG out a lot this season. They haven't really had consistent minutes with them, so that's why they're also at that similar standing with the Nuggets. But my point is that the Nuggets, regardless of the circumstances that they've had to deal with health-wise, COVID-wise, they've put up successful statistics, successful numbers, and that's largely part to Nikola Jokic's dominant performances.
It's actually 8 games. My bad. You were right. It was 8 games. I was looking at the second Warriors game, and I thought that's when he got hurt, but he got hurt on April 12th. So it's been a little bit like 3 weeks since his injury. But yeah, no, you make a great point. I mean, even with his injury, they've been playing well. Their only loss without him was against the Warriors on April 23rd, a week ago. And so, yeah, I mean, this Nuggets team is great. Jokic is raising his level, and really, I think we both agree that he's the lock this year. I mean, in a COVID year with a shortened off season and a lot of injuries, he's the one who sticks out.
I don't want to be ignorant about the fact that Joel Embiid is putting up amazing numbers, but to me, in my eyes, there is no chance that Jokic doesn't win this award. Jokic is averaging 26, 11, and 9. Embiid is averaging 29, 11, and 3. I would personally prefer a guy who averages 26, 11, and 9 over a guy who averages 29, 11, and 3, because that shows that he's also getting other players involved in playmaking, right? Statistically, I choose Jokic. And at the same time, I'm going to choose the guy who's healthy, the guy who's played every single game. Embiid, like you mentioned earlier, he's missed around 19 games this season, and there's still 10 games left. Jokic is a lock for the MVP, but credit to all the other guys in the conversation up there too. There's so many: Giannis, Embiid. You can make Stephen Curry. lot of talent in this league, but I think that it should be unanimous for Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, and again, like as you mentioned before, they could still finish as a third seed in the West, which if you're a third seed without Jamal Murray and you're putting up the numbers that Jokic is putting up, you deserve the MVP award.
Let's talk about if this playoffs were to end today, if the regular season was to end today and the playoffs were to start today, Arju. The Nuggets would play the healthy Lakers
Yeah.
in round one. Talk to me about how you think that series would go. The Nuggets would have home court advantage. I forget whether or not the Nuggets have fans.
They do, yeah.
I think
So all 30 teams have fans except for the Blazers. The Blazers are the only team in the league right now that don't have fans.
well, of course, it's your team.
That's the
But
only reason I know that.
but talk to me about the Nuggets having home court advantage over the Lakers.
Yeah, that's big. I still think I'd pick the Lakers, not having Jamal Murray, who is a star in the bubble last year, will hurt them. But Michael Porter Jr. could take some big steps this year.
Actually, I just realized something. Talking about standings in the playoffs, we just talked about the Nuggets and Clippers. They play today.
Yeah,
If the
yeah,
Nuggets, if, if the Nuggets can manage to win that game, they're going to have the same record as the Clippers. And then the game after that for the Nuggets is the Lakers. So, look, we have a tough schedule here for the Nuggets, but I just think it's important to note that the main reason why we're even talking about the fact that Nuggets could push for the third seed is because of Nikola Jokic.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know if Kawhi is playing tonight. He's questionable. He hasn't played the past few games, but he could play tonight. And so we might see two healthy teams, outside the Jamal Murray injury, going against each other, and that could be a preview in the playoffs potentially.
Are there any teams in the playoffs for the Western Conference? Assuming let's assume like the Trailblazers and Grizzlies make it, right? Or you could, if you don't want the Grizzlies, you could get the Warriors. Regardless, are there any teams that you think the Nuggets can beat in a 7-game series without Jamal Murray?
Yeah, I think so. I still think this team is really good. Michael Porter Jr. he's gonna take a leap, I'd say. And come playoff time, I think people are gonna be like, wow, he's actually taking this leap. I think he can beat the Grizzlies. They can beat the Spurs. They can beat the Warriors. In a 7-game series, I think they can beat the Warriors. They could probably beat the Trailblazers, right, in a 7-game series right now. There's a lot of injuries right now in Portland with Dame's injuries. So there's a good chance that they could beat them. But yeah, I'd say those are the teams. I don't think they can beat the Mavericks, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, or Suns when they're fully healthy.
Hey, that's a fair point. Arjun, before we move into our 24-second Q&A, is there anything you want to say about Nikola Jokic, or is it already said and done? Are we going to officially mark him as the MVP in this episode?
Give him the MVP. We'll talk more about our award winners probably sometime in the next 2 weeks, but give him the MVP.
All right, so 24-second Q&A. Arjun, I actually have my question ready for you because we talked about this off the podcast, but some of the viewers know that you are a Portland Trailblazers fan.
Yeah.
Yesterday, a very credible source, very credible journalist within the NBA came out and leaked some information about the Portland Trailblazers. Just give us your thoughts on that situation. It's not really a question. Just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the timing of the article. We're nearing the end of the regular season, and there's a lot going on in Portland. And we called this a while ago. Okay, we've called this a while ago. We knew something was going to happen this offseason. And actually, they asked him about it after the game. They asked Dame about it after the game, and he said, when he first wrote that article, he had a feeling people were gonna because Chris Haynes and Dame are close, right? He had a feeling that people were gonna be like, oh, Dame is behind this and Dame is doing this. Dame said, while there are some things that he does, he did talk about how it hasn't been the best year for him physically and how this team needs to really turn it around. Not all of it is obviously true. And so that was kind of what he said. I mean, he said that if I've been honest with y'all the entire time about why, what I think I need and how the team can get better. And so, take everything with a grain of salt. It's not written by him. Obviously, it's written by Chris Haynes, and Chris Haynes is a writer, and writers are always going to look for what's the big topic that they can write about. And so take everything with a grain of salt. But that being said, do I expect the Blazers to make moves this offseason? Yes. They're CJ is probably on his way out. And I love CJ, but it might just have to be something that needs to get done.
Hey, we'll see what happens. There's a lot that could happen within the Portland Trailblazers this offseason.
Definitely. But my question to you is, well, I have two questions, but I don't know which one I want to ask actually. But since you asked me a Blazers question, I'll ask you a Miami Heat question. Tell me more about Dwayne Dedmon and Victor Oladipo. Those were the big acquisitions after the trade deadline.
I mean this in the most respectful way possible in regards to Victor Oladipo. Nothing to tell you. Games showed his defensive presence. Offensively, he wasn't the best. Unfortunately, the best offensive game that Victor Oladipo had was the game where he got injured, and he hasn't played since. It's been a long time. I actually don't think people have realized that Victor Oladipo has not been playing for the Miami Heat for weeks now, and we haven't really gotten any updates from the Miami Heat organization, which is kind of concerning. I think Eric Spoelstra yesterday said something along the lines of Victor Oladipo is like progressing, like he's getting better. Hopefully, we'll have him come playoff time. In regards to Dwayne Dedmon, man, like as a Heat fan, all Heat fans, I hope there's some listening here. They can back me up on this. Like we have needed a stable and efficient big behind Bam Adebayo for so long now, because when Bam Adebayo goes to the bench, our offense and our defense crumbles. And that's where we would lose games. So when Bam Adebayo went on the bench and teams took advantage. Now we have a guy in Dwayne Dedmon who's a defensive anchor. He's a rim protector. And honestly, he's scoring for us too. He's getting fouls. He's making free throws. And this is a guy who I think underrated signing. And I'm not even saying this as a Heat fan. Like he's genuinely been amazing for us. And it looks like he's happy to be here, which is the best part. So I really like those two acquisitions. I just hope that Victor Oladipo gets healthy.
He was, and I when he was playing with the Hawks the first time around, I was like, this guy's going to be good because he could shoot the three ball. I remember him that one season where he was being told to shoot the three ball. He was shooting at 38%, which is really good for a big man. It doesn't seem like he's been shooting them as much with the Heat, but my point is like to me, he's always been a good player. He's always been a good role player. And I feel like he didn't get those opportunities in Sacramento or when he got traded back to Atlanta again. And so it's nice to see him actually putting it together right now in Miami and making such an impact.
In 16 minutes, because I knew he put up 18 and 9. Against the Spurs 2 or 3 days ago, he put up 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 1 block in 16 minutes. Like, if you're going to do that regularly, man, like, bro, give him the max. Give Dwayne Dedmon the max contract.
His per 36 is going to look insane. It's going to be like 50 and 50.
It's going to be insane. But yeah, really happy with those acquisitions. Like I said, look, man, it's not even about basketball. I just hope Victor Oladipo deals with the situation and recovers successfully.
Yeah, definitely. And that's all we want as NBA fans, all these players to come back healthy and make an impact on their teams come playoff time. But Jordan, I think that's all. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Give Nikola Jokic the MVP, and we'll see you guys next time.